Before we begin, I do want to inform the council. You know, as many, or the council was copied. The council was copied on an email, regarding subpoenas. We gave a list to Rick. We are hopeful that Rick may have a resolution for us to adopt this evening to subpoena those people rather than wait until a week from Thursday, then give another week for them to respond. You're talking another 3-4 weeks till our next hearing. I think we need to keep it fresh, keep it on track. They're going to court on Wednesday. I think it's pertinent for us to, you know, get those subpoenas rolling ASAP. So it is a little twist. We're hopeful that Rick can do just a very short resolution, but we will have to unanimously consent to put it on the special.
Council President, I was an email already sent because I didn't receive it.
I copied all council members on the email to Rick. So look for an email to Rick. Yeah, it was this morning.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna open the finance meeting, okay, July 24th, not too bad, 6:05. I'll take a quick, we'll stand for the pledge.
I don't know, a roll call, sorry. At 6:00 meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry about that. We'll do a quick roll call. Councilmember Gully.
Here.
Councilmember Figueroa is absent. He informed us earlier. Councilmember Steele. Councilmember Mann. Here. Councilmember Conley Wilson. Present. Councilmember Soriento. Here. Council President Mantello is here. We have 6 present, 1 absent. Presentation of the agenda. You're going to see a number of CFA applications, which are applications to various state agencies, and we're hopeful for these applications. You're also going to see an interesting proposal in DPU, public utilities, which we'll talk about. Most importantly, we have Andy here with us who's going to talk about the 2022 financial statement. Bonadio was here last week for a few hours. Unfortunately, we all know last week we had a 6.5 hour hearing. So we had to postpone it to tonight. Bonadio is unavailable, but Andy will walk us through this. The public forum, I'll open it up. Would anyone like to speak on any item on the agenda? I think we're good. We're going to hand it to Andy immediately, and Andy will walk us through this. If you could just give me 2 seconds, Andy. I have to pull up.
So I did put it up.
Yeah, I go with my glasses.
Online.
I'm in. Now, what I need, our wait list, since I have a hard time seeing far. We can close. All right, take it away, Andy. Thank you.
Good evening. So, Alan Walter, the partner from the Bonadio Group, like the council president mentioned, had wanted to be here. He is out of town at another client. Dave Bonadio is comfortable with me presenting this evening. It's going to be extremely high level. It's a 100-page document. You want me to go over it, we certainly can. Bonadio can be made available if any council member wants to meet with Bonadio and myself to go over this. So the summary, that similar to prior years, the draft audit includes all 3 financial statements and financial statement audits that we have done. It includes the financial statement audit of the city as a whole, the single audit for federal expenditures in the New York State Department, single audit of those expenditures as well. from a total perspective, there were no audit adjustments, no audit findings, and there is no management letter.
That's really good news.
Yes, the numbers are almost identical to that of the AUD. When it comes to revenues and expenditures, we did make some adjustments throughout, and those were client adjustments as we went and are similar to prior years. And again, I'm just gonna hit on the major pages after talking with Alan about the audit itself, and if you have questions, again, we can meet at any time. So-
I apologize. I'm trying to pull out the PDF. Doesn't seem to be working. I know Emily.
You may,
No, I can't get it either.
I'm in it, that might be part of the problem.
I got it. It just pulled.
It's also a massive file because it's 100 pages.
Also, figure it out.
I got it. Yay.
So to jump right into it. The independent auditors report, which is a summary of the financial statement audit itself. There's an unmodified opinion on the general fund, the capital projects fund, and the aggregate, the component units, and the aggregate remaining fund information. I will explain each of those, what that means shortly. An unmodified opinion is the cleanest opinion you can have on your audit. Similar to prior years, we do have an adverse opinion on the government-wide financial statements. That's because, as we have discussed before, the city is not in compliance with GASB 34. GASB is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. There's two components to GASB 34. One is the fixed asset study that the city, for whatever reason, when it was fully first implemented, the city opted not to do. The other piece of it is something called management's discussion and analysis, which for some reason the city has never done until this year's audit, which does include management discussion and analysis, or MD&A. You'll see that after the audit opinion, if you want to read it, God bless you. It's high level. It's looking at changes from the prior year and management's opinion on how things progress throughout the year. Skip ahead, just the statement in that position. And again, a lot of this is what Alan asked me to review. This is the citywide all funds as of December 31st, 2022. The city has $523 million in assets. That right there is the not in compliance with GASB 34 because there is no depreciation of any city assets on our financial statements.
Okay.
Total fund balance of the city as of December 31st.
Andy, do you mind blowing it up as much as you can? Oop, back a drop because I don't want to get, yeah, oh, that's so good. You could do it one last, so I apologize. Yeah, thank you. You're the best. Thank you.
The total net position, or what customary would be called fund balance of the city, again, citywide, is $154 million at the end of the year. The no depreciation plays into that number as well. But that is the city's financial position at the end of the year. There's a lot of other factors there's a lot of the actuarial analysis work that's done that goes into these numbers. And when we look at things government-wide, they can swing annually depending on the discount rates because it's an actuarial-based calculation.
And I apologize, Andy, the governmental activity says adverse.
That's the no, that's because we don't depreciate. And cost about, we've set aside money from the American Rescue Plan to do that study. That costs upwards now, it's a projected cost somewhere between $200,000 to $250,000 because not a lot of people do those analysis anymore because the city decided years ago to not implement. So at the time, when there were a lot of people available, it could be done now.
And this would be like an asset management type of
It would,
assessment.
forward looking, we would need to have asset management. It could, forward looking, it could be done in-house. What needs to be done is, and it has to have an engineer stamp on it. An engineering firm essentially has to go through and values we provide the cost, they value the age of your infrastructure, so you can assess a depreciation value.
And that adverse is strictly because we have not gotten an asset management.
Correct.
Gotcha.
That's the only reason.
I honestly, I know it's a big deal, like 15 years ago. I have not heard of recent ones, but at the same time, what can we do? I mean, so we need that to change the adverse period.
That's it, but I don't wanna say it's the only, it's the only thing, but it's not a simple task.
Oh, I know.
Like I said, we have the ARPA money set aside, it's something we think, we have under one of the master service agreements of different engineering firms in the city, that they may do it, it's just a matter of, at this point, of carving out the time this year and engaging with them and starting that work. And then it's about a 2-year cycle at least to get it off of your financial statement. You need to run a full 12 months after that study's done to get the adverse opinion off. And while it is the only factor, it comes up when we get rated by Moody's or S&P, which we just did 3 weeks ago, and they affirmed our A1 rating. But a conversation they always ask, why does the city have an adverse opinion?
So we need to at least get it rolling, even if it takes longer than anticipated. So do you see us undertaking that anytime in the?
It's something I would like to try to get started before the end of the year.
Okay. I do know when I was at Thruway, real quick, they did Thruway and Canal. It was super pricey, but we have, think about 524 miles, et cetera. And then the Thruway, but they spend like over $1 million to do the whole state.
It's estimated to cost us $250,000.
And it was 10 years ago, Councilmember Gully.
And that estimated cost of $250,000, that doing it in-house?
We cannot do it in-house.
It cannot be done in.
Once it's done, we can manage it there forward.
You want.
You have to, they're going back. They have to measure every road, every water pipe the DPU's put in, every sewer pipe the DPU's put in, all of that gets factored in. With that to be government-wide is every fund in the city. It's a tremendous undertaking. And I don't know why it was not done when it first came out.
Yeah.
Which is something they didn't have when it first came out.
And it's something that to the layperson, it is financially nuanced. It sounds like a waste of money, but it does have an effect
Oh, yeah.
that bleeds through now to the city's audit and financial statements. But this has been there, like this adverse opinion has been there the last several years. It's the last step. And then the second that's done, and you go through the 12-month cycle, this would have been unmodified.
Mhm.
Councilman.
Yes, Councilmember Min.
Andy, the data that actually gives about like the assets that we have and then the depreciation on those assets, is that also provides all any relevant information to honor the state of our infrastructure and water department and like
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
sort of a comprehensive view, and we can maybe target where we want to spend.
Yes, I would say so.
So it can become.
I think it's all, I
document.
think the most helpful place it could be too is with vehicles. But
Yeah.
that we could do in-house.
You could do that.
We could do that now, but to get rid of the adverse opinion, we'll look at the water, because I know Chris has his software for pipes.
Yeah.
You can't just pull that and put it in, you need. Gatsby wants what they want,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
maybe a phase type of.
Yeah.
Thanks. Wendy.
So to go. We did change the presentation of the governmental funds in the audit this year, where historically we have listed all funds out. GASB has now changed how they want financial statements presented, where they consider major and non-major funds that the city has. There's an analysis done based off of total assets, total revenues, and total expenditures to determine your major and non-major funds. The only two major funds that the city has, based off of that calculation, is the general fund and the capital projects fund. Non-major funds, water, sewer, garbage, grants, are listed in the non-major fund category, and they still have the same information included herein. They are just in the back of the audit. This was a change that has been implemented throughout Bonadio's book of business, and after discussing it with them, felt it was best to try our financial statements in the same manner. Similar to the results in the AUD, total fund balance 18.8 million in the general fund, and just to note, the negative 35 million in the capital projects fund is not of concern. It is the way revenues are recognized when funded by bond anticipation notes and grants. That will swing back up as we pay off bond anticipation notes and issue long-term debt. Skip ahead. Rest is information that's required to be included in the audit. They're back. We do show component units of the city, which are determined if the city has a controlling financial interest in an entity, or if the city has essentially control over an organization's board. So for that, it would be the IDA, the LDC, the CRC, and the land bank. Every one of those boards, the city council and or the city mayor, between their appointments, control a majority of the board, thus making them a component. The bid is not a component unit because the city as an organization does not have the majority of the appointments of the majority of the board. So that's the differentiation between component units.
Is the library part, even though they're separate, but? Okay.
So even though the libraries levy, well, the library sets their own levy. So that's a voted on levy by the city. So it would not make them a component unit. We have done it for the bid, because the bid's levy is determined by the city's tax rate. I've done the checklist with Bonadio and looked at it the last 2 years. Even though the city's tax rate controls the levy, it does not make it a component unit of the city. We do note that in this section of the document, where the notes of financial statements are, which are 42 pages of required disclosures. It is noted therein about the bid itself, but it's not a component unit. So just to skip through this section again, this is over 40 pages of notes. And towards the back, just council's aware, this section here is where the non-major funds are listed. So all the non-major funds of the city are the special grant fund, miscellaneous special revenue fund, the water fund, the sewer fund, the garbage fund, and the debt service. And we show their individual information here, and then it is aggregated in the front of the document. The next report, again, if council members want to meet, we would be more than glad to go over them. This is a single audit of federal expenditures, which shockingly, just so the council sees, this is the single biggest.
What page is it?
88. This is the single biggest year of federally funded projects that I've ever seen at the city. We had thought it would just be the American Rescue Plan, and we were incorrect in that once we reviewed all of them. If you go to page 90, you will see the results of the federal single audit where Bonadio tested, and when I say test, they pulled procurement files, purchase orders, vouchers, and checks for almost every payment made in the American Rescue Plan, the work at Monument Square, ESG, and the Campbell Avenue Bridge project. And what came back was a clean audit where no weaknesses were found, internal controls were determined to be fine. And an unmodified opinion on this single audit as well. And the last page, and the last document was the New York State single audit, where similar to the others, on page 98, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no current year findings. New York State audit as well was essentially unmodified. So that is the 2022 audit itself. I do want to thank First Bonadeo, because we had set out a very aggressive timeline for this year's audit. And we were able to get it done, obviously. With a lot of work goes into the single audit, especially, and we were able to present it to the council this evening, and also everyone in the comptroller's office, because it wasn't for a lack of effort on Bonadeo's part to try to find something, and that is not a criticism. That
No.
did their job very thoroughly, and the staff, without a complaint, kept pulling every single document they asked. I'd be serious when I say I believe they tested almost every payment we made out of capital projects for last year. That's the point we got them. And they, without a complaint, pulled it right away and gave it to them and off we went. So.
And, Andy, what do you feel this year compared to, prior years, biggest difference, biggest, during COVID, it was handled much differently, but, do you feel any major changes that the council should be aware of that you saw, or?
No, I think it worked out well. Bonadeo's contract is up, so once we award that next RFP, whoever the firm is, we set a calendar, I want to say last year in October, that they would be here in February, they would be here in May, and then we would put the financial statements together. One of the delays this year was, and we talked about it last year, was the implementation of new reporting requirements for leases, which is as nuanced as long. That was part of the holdup, because it took a lot of time to get that done. Next year, there's another GASB that needs to be implemented related to computer software, and then more changes on the horizon. And Bonadeo's been very good about explaining those changes, and they don't bill for all the time that I call them for, which I am always appreciative of.
Do council members have any questions, concerns? Very good, President. Yes, Councilmember Min.
In terms of earmarking money for the asset review, so that adverse, is that something that you're looking to build into the upcoming budget?
So we have already, we have an appropriation set aside from part of the American Rescue Plan to do that, because it's one time and to get that done. So it's sitting there, it's finding the right firm to do it.
Okay, and is that our RFPs out for that?
So we have master services agreements. I think 2 firms who may still do that.
I don't even know if CHA does that anymore. They
We
do.
think that they are one of them. We think that there's another one as well. I don't remember the name of the other firm.
I know a lot of them got away from it. It was a hot thing, and it ended up, it was kind of going on the back burner, but they are very, very useful and important.
So the appropriations there is carving up the time that we're here to do it.
Yeah, the shop for the right person. Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you wanna hang there for finance, that's all, yeah. It's your birthday, you can sit where you want. You said it's your birthday. We'll keep rolling. All right. Geez, I scared, Bill, I know, out of the room. Bring the deal. Okay. Ordinance 51, ordinance amending the general fund and capital projects fund budgets to appropriate funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Gully, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Steele. Discussion, we, on this one, help me out, this is, yes, Monument Square. Yes, and Park, so, Andy, maybe just briefly go into each, I mean, the parks, a couple of the parks came in, at a higher bid, as many folks know, the council appropriated money 3.5 years ago. Bonding and then fast forward ARPA money. Bids are out there and they're coming in higher than anticipated, correct?
Correct. So, Council President mentioned for parks, well, this ordinance as a whole, the 4.235 million appropriates remaining it's the remaining balance of the unappropriated American Rescue Plan monies. This would fully appropriate the $42.8 million. The 1.235 million for parks, the council president mentioned, the bids have come in higher, but we've seen that to a degree is to be expected given just the nature of the economy at this moment in time. We have fully appropriated the $2 million that was bonded for projects that have been put out to bid. So this 1.2 million in addition to the other $1 million puts the ARPA funded portion of the project. The 2.2 million would be provide enough funding to bid and award in addition to potentially other grant funding. All the parts have been discussed through 112th Street at this time. We cannot execute a contract that's been bid without an appropriation backup. I sign an appropriation sheet before it goes over to the Corporation Counsel's office for his and the mayor's signature, which is why we're bringing forward another appropriation. The $3 million for Monument Square is for a purpose that is to be determined as the project develops over time, but it is setting aside $3 million for Monument Square in the public-private partnership portion of the project.
I think it'd be great, maybe a quick update from the mayor, unless you know Andy, on the Monument Square. I mean, we know they're having a tough time, but at the same time, they're moving forward. So maybe for the council, a quick update would be great. And Andy, if you could give us, I think I had asked last time, but you're needy with end of the year, et cetera, for the breakout for the parks.
I'm happy to be very quick because there is not a lot of progress to report at this time. But the conversations are still ongoing, looking for additional state resources and for rescaling the project a little bit. But we do not have sufficient funds to do what we had envisioned pre-COVID. So everybody's still scrambling, looking under every rock. You know, if you have anything in your seat cushions, let us know. I mean, we're that desperate. So the development team is still working on that.
Yes, Councilmember Gully.
Mr. Mayor, when they reevaluate the project and they try to rescale it, that'll come in front of us first, I would think, or will we see, I mean, because I'd hate to see it go away from what we had visioned and what was brought out through the meetings that we had. And I know that this happens when money's not around, but how do we make sure that we just don't say, okay, put a building in there and we try to work towards what we really originally, what the people of Troy really planned to see there. How do we work towards that vision and not stray too far away because of the lack of funding?
I think it's a matter of degrees. You know, if it's a matter of making some small modifications I don't feel like the public would feel it to be a bait and switch, but if we're looking at a wholesale, you know, more stories, fewer stories, fewer square feet, less public space, we have to talk about that because we did have a very robust planning session with the
Absolutely.
public.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, what the public came up with was very difficult to put together. And I think we were just about there when the impact of COVID blew us completely out of the water. So we will be sensitive if there's any large scale modification. We're gonna have to go back out and talk about it again.
Yeah, please do.
And, you know, Mayor, that's, you know, actually, Councilmember Gully, it's super important because, you know, as the mayor mentioned, there were quite a few public input sessions, for this. And the developer met the folks on many, of the projects, you know, development in terms of meeting halfway with the folks, if not all the way on a number of issues. And you know, for me, the public space part is very important, incorporating that into it and accessibility and all that we talked about in terms of, you know, really utilizing the waterfront with that development. So,
Agreed. I think and that's what creates the challenge because the public space doesn't generate revenue that you could leverage to complete the construction. So the more public square feet you have, the less revenue you have, the less capital you have to complete the project. So finding that balance, finding that tipping point that's acceptable both to the public and to your lenders and developers is the challenge right now.
well, that's what's hard when you talk about the waterfront, public accessibility, et cetera. It has a huge impact on the development in terms of economic impact. But it's not direct financial impact. It's an indirect financial impact to that project. So it's huge and it needs to happen. But in terms, like you said, to lure an investor, sure, it enhances the project, but the direct dollar, you can't incorporate it. But they could do an economic impact statement. Anyway, I guess for me, the 3 mil, you know, folks would say, okay, 19 mil from the state, the developer, I'm not sure what their dollar is to date in terms of their private investment to the project, but 3 mil, okay, it's important for us to be a partner in this. We've talked about it from day one. 3 mil to the taxpayers of the city. Where do you see those monies going more? For the public portion of that project or?
I probably would reserve a concrete answer, no pun intended, until, you know, maybe we could have a meeting where we could bring in Dylan and Sneak and
Sneak.
talk about where we stand.
I think that'd be a great
I
idea.
think we would be putting the ARPA dollars toward the public portion.
Yeah, I would think.
And I think an update from Samin would be great, even if he doesn't have, you know, concrete, development in terms of timeline, et cetera, but it would be great to get brought up to speed. We haven't talked about it in a while and, you know, it's 3 mil, but, we want to see this project move forward, so. Did anyone else have questions? Okay,
Council President.
yeah, Councilmember Conley Wilson.
Sorry. I do also have like a concern about setting this aside without this being like a concrete kind of plan. I don't feel super comfortable like setting aside the rest of the ARPA money if we don't really have like a super solid plan in terms of how we're spending this money. I know it's going to be on the Monument Square, but like what exactly in there?
Well, you know, our goal is to develop what we have been talking about for over a year now. How much of that we'll get for the state's $19 million and our $3 million remains to be seen yet. How much additional grant dollars we can attract remains to be seen. I think what we're doing with the $3 million is reserving it. I don't think the state would be pleased if they were putting up 19 and we were doing nothing. We need to show that we are financially participating in this project as well. So it's a reservation of the 3 million. We're not spending it yet. Hopefully all the numbers will come together. We can sit down again and say, this money goes to this portion, this money goes to this portion, because it will be, there will be parking, there will be public space, there will be residential space, commercial space. So we have to figure out which funding source is able to fund which use. And that is for people who are more knowledgeable about the details than I am. So I'd prefer to have them come in and speak about it.
Is it imperative that we pass this $3 million today? Because I'd rather have that information here. I'm speaking for myself in terms of my comfort with.
Yeah, I think what's imperative is that we don't appropriate it for another use. Does it need to be done today? I don't know, but the danger is if we don't put a hold on it, that it could be used for other purposes, which would not reflect well on us after we just went begging to a state for $19 billion. If we do not use it for the project, or if we do not need it for the project, it can easily be reappropriated. We have done that with other ARPA funds that we weren't, that we did not put to use in the way that was originally intended. It came back to you and reappropriated it for a different use.
I just, it doesn't seem like the project is fully fleshed out.
Councilmember Gully.
So just to help along with this, this is a big project, and the state's gonna have 19 in, the city's gonna have 3. I don't know how much the developers are gonna have, but we hope that his pocket will be almost up there too, that they have a deep enough pocket. You're talking 40 million towards the project. The problem is that if we don't have something there to maintain or utilize the public portion, I can guarantee you that will be the first part to get shrunk down to nothing. It'll be a stairway instead of a promenade, and it'll be a piece of grass next to the parking lot instead of a park. Because this is the way it always happens, because you get tight and they have to spend their money. So now we're looking for the state funding and the money we put aside, which will be used to make sure that we can really accent that project with some public amenities, even though they should be coming from the developer wholly, I think, when you're going to build a project this big. So I think it's necessary. And I do know that if it's not spent, I've had many conversations with Andy that, it's just appropriated and it's in an account, so we can use it towards it. If the project should fall through, then we can utilize that money in a different area that would value the taxpayers. And the park money, listen, 3 years ago, when we had a few million in there, stuff was cheaper. But there was so much going on and the world was in a chaotic state that everything went crazy. Companies shut down, stopped producing material, which caused us not to be able to get projects done, and then put a wall of wax on everybody. But I heard something the other day, and I was very frustrated by that, where somebody commented, we should not put money in parks, we should get police because you need police. Well, we need police because our youth have nowhere to go. The high schools and the facilities around here shut down all the fields that were available. They lock them up because they have a lot of money invested, and some of the youth today are very ignorant as to showing that respect, and they tear up things and mess things up for people. And that's why those gates became locked. People were tired of seeing things ruined when they left them open. So our youth really have limited places they can go and spend time other than the street. That's why this park plan is so important moving forward. Yes, we do need better safety programs, both with our police and our firemen. But this project takes care of that little broken nail syndrome. We have to give the youth somewhere to go and somewhere to be. So to the person who might have stated that, I think that was just a very narrow-minded insight as to the real problem, which is no activity, and that's how all these nuisance crimes come up. So I'm going to be in favor of this. Because I think it's gonna be good for us long term. We can't get the answers now because this project is just tied up in a mayhem to see how much we can squeeze out of the orange. But I think it's a good piece of legislation and I'm gonna pass it.
But then, if I could jump in to Councilmember Conley Wilson, I agree. And in terms of, if this money is not spent, it will be reappropriated. I think at this time, I think we, have to show good faith with the state only because a year ago we had talked about appropriating money toward the project. I think we have to get the developer in here as soon as we can. With Dylan, we could call a planning meeting and just get an update. And I think Sameet needs to inform us where where he is right now. And if he has a potential timeline, and also the public portion part of it. But, I totally get where you're coming, but if if this project dramatically changes, we have to relook at our investment into the project and, get a full, I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but if it does, we're going to have to take steps back on the project, but hopefully it will not dramatically change. She mentioned that, but we all want to see this project move forward. But I think it's time now that the state has appropriated 19 mil and we're appropriating 3 mil, potentially this will go to the August meeting. We need an update of where they are. So, Councilmember Soriento, Councilmember Mill.
What is the deadline again for just, spend all the ARPA funds?
Appropriated by the end of 24, spent by the end of 26.
Good question. Good, Councilmember Mill.
Yeah, it is hard to lock up money, but I think that we should continue to recognize we have a gaping hole in the middle of our business district that has been there for 12 years, posing a liability risk because someone can fall to their death from River Street, which does have a cost associated with it if that happens. But also, the state $719 million shows their trust in the project. And the other thing that, with Governor Hochul last week, sort of revitalizing her housing initiatives, and really being willing to bring money to communities that have shown exactly what Troy has done, progressive zoning, with the sensitivity to, continued growth, continuing to add housing, and also the fact that this keys into and ties into the geothermal, making us one of the leaders in the state in terms of municipal geothermal. I wanted to bring this idea to council and it's good that we have you here, Mayor, and Andy as well, to maybe put something together and request the governor for Troy to really be New York State's model small city for implementing her housing. And I don't know what the best way to lobby the governor is, but we're doing a lot of really good, right things. And look how awesome our audit is. So we're spending money responsibly as well. So give us more, because when you spend money wisely, they give you more money. So maybe it's worth it for us to talk a little bit, and with Dylan and the different branches of government and really present something to the governor saying, especially around housing issues, give us more money, please. Well,
I think that's how we got the 19 million.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to show.
But like, ball's rolling and her husband plan did not go through. And we really represent probably the best in the capital district in terms of having fundamental, the zoning laws underpin everything we're doing, and a comprehensive plan, and the finances, and public-private partnerships already in a lot of projects. So, like, go big. Let's sell ourselves more.
Well, we're asking for a lot of CFA money tonight, so there we go, okay? You got it. If you want to be governor, a lot of CFA, so questions? Yes,
We'll come back.
Councilmember Steele.
I would move the question.
Very good. If no other objectives, concerns, et cetera, okay, further discussion, no, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and this will go to the August meeting, so we'll have some time, and I encourage the planning chair to get Dylan to meet and the mayor, and we can talk about next steps and timelines. I do want to bring attention, each council member received a resolution. I really, Rick, if you're watching, I want to thank you immensely for whipping up. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see him behind the. Oh, not that you're, I'm very. Rick whipped up a resolution for us. I'm going to ask the council at the regular meeting if we could add it to that. If you want to take a look at it. No, we can directly add it to the regular. Yep. So take a look at it, have some time to read it, and, or the special, I'm sorry, the special tonight. So take a look at it, et cetera, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Ordinance 52, ordinance transfer funds, ordinance 51 carries 6-0. Ordinance 52, ordinance transferring funds within the 2023 general fund, water fund, and miscellaneous special revenue fund budgets. Council President Vantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion? Motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Gully. Andy, I was looking at this one, and I did see $4,000 in DPU for the comp buyout. Who is that?
That would be multiple employees who have resigned or retired in DPU so far this year.
Okay,
It's not just one
gotcha.
person, it's accumulated balances of everyone who's left.
And, okay, and what was my other question on this? I saw the rental and recreation. Did you outline that one?
It's for, I think primarily porta potties for the remaining of the park season.
Okay,
The summer months, that the park season, I apologize.
okay,
And an estimate just to get us through, so we don't have to bring back another transfer to the account.
and I did know the phones, jumped up Chris, the 10 grand, in public utilities, was that just something? Now they're adding,
Yeah, we're adding quite a bit to that. What's happened is we're still on copper lines with Verizon for our communications, and the copper lines have just gone berserk. Because they're not maintaining them, all the tariffs are off, and they can bring Verizon charge whatever they want for them. So we are looking at other forms of communication, either being radio or internet. Right now, they're just driving the price up because they got.
It's that, like, that copper issue was, and I believe it still is, but was being looked at within BIS. Obviously, with what has happened this year in BIS, that getting off of the copper has been delayed. It was the goal, but obviously
yeah,
the other things have happened.
okay. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And this will go to the August meeting also. Ordinance 53, ordinance authorizing the creation of capital project in the capital projects fund, appropriating funding from the assigned unappropriated fund balance of the water fund for the purpose of the capital project, and amending the water fund and capital projects fund budgets for the capital project. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
So
Okay, motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Gully. Chris is with us, he's gonna talk about this, and I did, coincidentally take a drive, before the meeting this evening, I'm like, oh yeah, that building. Folks should know, full disclosure, when Chris mentioned the Masonic Temple, I thought the one on Route 2. And I'm like, wait a minute, so there is a Masonic Temple that's been vacant for a while that Chris is gonna walk us through. And, he'll talk about, the appraisal, things like that, what's happening up at the plant, and the overall picture, through this proposal. And this goes along with the other.
Yeah, resolution 72 and 73 are also with this. It's kind of all encompassing. When the water plant was built, water plant road was private. Spectrum came in and then they sold property for the Shriners to build Masonic Temple, which is right on Brickyard Road and Water Plant Road. What's come up over the past several years is the road is not wide enough to handle all the truck traffic that we have now. It's also come up after 9/11 that between FBI, Homeland Security, Department of Health, that the road really should not be a road. It should be a driveway for the water plant. Spectrum has moved all of their offices to the Hoosick Street, to the Walmart Plaza on Hoosick Street, so they only have employees at their facility now. The Masonic Temple just opens it up for public events when they have them. They are in the process of looking to move somewhere. So they are Albany, all the way up to the Canadian border, if I understand. So they're looking at trying to get something more centralized for their membership. So they are looking at selling the property. We have gotten appraisals on it. The appraisals on the property itself are anywhere from $265,000 to $290,000. So what we're looking at with the fund balance of the $500,000 is to purchase the property and then redevelop that property, put garage doors in it and make it so we can store our equipment inside, so it doesn't rot sitting in the field somewhere. Our dump trucks are outside. We do have a big garage that can handle the dump trucks, but we park utility trucks in there because we have a lot of tools on the utility trucks. So the dump trucks sit outside year round. We want to put the utility trucks inside this garage, and then we put our dump trucks inside the big garage to save them. That's one of the big things that we're looking at doing. That would be the $500,000 fund balance appropriation. That I'm looking at using the fund balance, or we're looking at using the fund balance because we can make that quick. We can get that done. The second part is the security part, which is where we're looking at the $1.5 million bond. If the $1.5 million bond doesn't pass, as long as I'm able to get the Masonic Temple, we can move forward with the rest of this plan in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. If I lose the Masonic Temple, this whole plan just goes right out the window. So the $1.5 million bond, when you go drive into the water plant off of Route 40, you notice that there's a very hard turn right there. Tractor trailers drive over the grass constantly. And if we have a dump truck trying to get out and a dump truck trying to get in, one has to pull over on the lawn so the other one can get in. If we're getting deliveries of chemicals, we have to actually make access for them around other vehicles. When the water plant was back in the 60s, there wasn't any traffic up there and the trucks were a lot smaller. Trucks have gotten larger, our equipment has gotten larger, and the road has stayed the same. We really have to redesign the road to widen it. We're also going to put parking areas in the front and the back that allow a tractor trailer to pull over, and it's going to be gated. So it'll be locked down for public access. We will have access inside our control room, and we're working with Spectrum. They will have access from their control room for deliveries. All employees of Troy and Spectrum would then get a code so they can punch themselves in and punch themselves in and gain access to the property. But that part of the $1.5 million project is redesigning that road, widening the road, paving the road, and putting gate access and cameras in that allow for controlled access with deliveries.
I have questions, but Councilmember Gully whispered in my ear. So Councilmember Gully, then I'd like to ask a couple of questions, then we'll open it up. Thank you.
So Chris, you're gonna take in front of the building off of Route 4, you're gonna open that up, expand that. Is that road expansion gonna go all the way through to the other end?
Yes, parts of the road are wide enough, other parts are very
Yeah, I
narrow.
know, it's tight.
And literally right in front of the water plant itself, the admin building, there's that half moon circle. We get written up on that from everybody every time they do an inspection. So that half moon circle will disappear. It'll
Thank
be
God.
a concrete retaining wall, and the grass area that's there will be pull-in parking. For admin purposes. But since we're not a public facility anymore, all the public portions of it have been moved to City Hall. We can really lock it down and protect our water treatment facility.
Yeah, I think that's a smart move with the way everything's going. We need to have some sort of protection around our assets, and our water is is our biggest asset that we have. So I agree with that. The Masonic Temple, I was hoping we were gonna create the waterworks pub. Put a couple of pool tables in there, to be honest with you, because after I seen the building, I said, wow, how nice that looks back there. But yeah, I agree. We get our stuff, if we keep everything out of the, out of the elements, and hopefully get dynamically more years of service out of them. It'll come back to us threefold in the future,
All set?
I think I am.
And here I was thinking, Councilmember Gully wanted indoor range, okay? Okay. Saying that.
Water drought.
Chris, I appreciate, Chris reached out, hopefully to everyone. I think you attempted to a number of council members to talk about this, and that's why I initially thought it was the Masonic Temple on Route 2. My old stopping grounds, growing up, I grew up in Miami States. We used to play ball, we used to play football, used to hang out in the grass field, and times have changed. 9/11 changed so much, and I'm shocked that we haven't talked about this, sooner. So in fact, I love, and I think it's essential that we do something to protect our plant up there in terms of, potential homeland security issues. So I'm shocked that we were not mandated to do it before now. I'm sure that you were getting calls from DOH, Homeland Security, the state feds, in terms of looking at that over the past 15 or so years. So I like this proposal. One of the things I did see, and I know the public goes over to Hoosick Street now for Spectrum. There are quite a few Spectrum employees that work there. How would that, the restriction work in terms of the gate, and allowing employees and, do they have deliveries for their trucks? Because I did see probably a good 15 or so Spectrum trucks. How would that work?
So similar to us, what we would have is every employee would have a four-digit PIN number. So when you pull up, there will be a keypad there. You punch in your PIN number and you gain access. That's also a timestamp where that employee comes into the facility. So if something happens, if somebody gains access at 11 o'clock, 11:30, something blows up, we can go back to who last had access and hold accountability there. And that's why we're looking at the entry points for deliveries. We'll still have our two-lane road coming in, but we're gonna have a wide enough spot off to one side for a tractor trailer to pull in. We do have tractor trailers that come in from out of state. And when they get on site, they have to park for the night. So they can park outside the gated area, and then we can allow them in when we choose. And that'd be the same thing for Spectrum. I've
So
already spoken to Spectrum, and they love this idea.
are we going to restrict any deliveries from Brickyard Road? Because that would certainly, Chris and I, another full disclosure, I received a phone call from a Scottsdale council member who is very concerned with the truck traffic and trucks using Brickyard Road to get onto 40 to skip the lights. And what they're doing is going up Northern Drive, taking that left, and the residents up there have never seen so much truck traffic. Do you see that potentially addressing that?
No,
No.
all of our access, other than our own dump, our own equipment is off of 40. And it's actually in the bids that we provide that it's off of 40. Tractor trailers aren't even supposed to be on Brickyard,
No, it's,
but since it's been paved, it is a great route around it.
they're gonna kill it too.
Well, it's hard trying to get onto 40 on the top side by the firehouse because it's a blind curve coming around. It takes a while for a truck to get up and over that.
It's dangerous. If anyone knows, try to take it, but you'll see it's kind of like this hodgepodge, shortcut for folks and for cars, okay, but trucks coming onto 40 from Brickyard on that turn is super dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not supposed to be on there, and I have seen the sheriff and the state police pull the tractor trailers over. They're not supposed to be using that for weight and for just access, either getting onto Northern Drive or onto Route 40. It's just not safe.
All right, and we talked about signage. I mean, signage, it'll help, but if you could talk to the council member, I believe I gave them your number, but okay, that was one. Then just secondly, what's the timing on the potential purchase of the Masonic?
As soon as this is appropriated, I believe I can start having that discussion and get negotiations and move forward with it. I would say by the end of the year, if not sooner.
Do we have to get, how many appraisals? I think it's
I have
2.
3.
You have 3?
Yeah.
Okay, and it came in, approximate,
265 to 290.
okay, all right, that's not bad. What's it like inside there? I mean, I saw the outside, it could use a little TLC, but the foundation, everything, you've had it inspected or not?
We
yet?
haven't had it inspected, but it's a concrete slab and it's a prefab steel structure. The roof is good, there's no leaks, so there's really nothing that's going to rot. And since we're using it as a garage, really not too concerned with heating systems or anything like that. The biggest issue they have is their commercial kitchen in there. The exhaust fans don't work. We're not gonna have a commercial kitchen though.
I hope not.
We might,
Gully would like that.
we might keep, a room. There is a nice.
Like, look at that stuff we might with.
May keep a room for a training facility.
You have said that.
Right now, we use a room up at the water plant in the admin building for training. But to try to keep people out of the water plant and a controlled access point, we may keep a room down there for a training facility. But there's still plenty of room for garage space for vehicles and equipment.
And before we do anything, we'll have an engineering firm or an outside or someone take a look at it in terms of the structure and all that, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Soriento.
So I checked online and I can't find Masonic Temple, but I found Masonic Lodge. Is that what it is, the same thing? And what's the square footage on that? I haven't
Yes,
seen it. I'm just
I'll
curious.
bring you out there.
Yeah, take the tour if you want. I'm gonna say it's like 4,500 square feet,
I was doing it.
5,000 square feet. It's a large space.
It's
It's a
long.
very large space.
Long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Further questions, discussion, and so you'll look to will you have Rick with you to negotiate this or?
That'll be a discussion I'll have with Rick of who's gonna be on that for the negotiation and what we can offer, what they want, what we can
Mhm.
offer.
Okay. I would appreciate you keeping us, in the loop on this. It's not every day we're purchasing buildings or more, selling. So saying that, I do see this as an important step in terms of the whole facility up there, Chris. And, I would like, I mean, our water is public safety is, over 125,000 customers. It's not just Troy, you're looking at thousands and thousands of people. Are you okay?
Sure.
Councilmember Kelly.
I'm trying to think of the height on that building. It didn't seem like it was big enough to put a dump truck in there.
The dump trucks will go in our big garage, which is already constructed on.
Oh, I couldn't even put it down.
No,
No, this would be our air compressors, our roller, our pickup trucks,
Right, the smaller utility
Smaller-
vehicles that
smaller
fit
equipment will go down there.
to a normal door.
Yes.
Yeah, all right, because the height is only like a 12, maybe 14-foot side.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have another incident like the Glenville Bridge.
Further questions, discussion, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, ordinance, 53, passes 6-0, and I did want to make mention, that is not on special tonight, but the others are. Did you say
That's
that? Okay, all right. Resolution 66. Resolution 66, resolution appointing a commissioner of these for the city of Troy. Council President Mantello, is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Gully, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Men, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 66, carries 6-0. You might want to hang out for the bonding, just.
Oh, Actually, there's a couple other items in there that I'm not a part of.
All right, thank you. Resolution 67, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Grassland Equipment and Irrigation Corporation for the purchase of new self-propelled mowers under the Sourcewell Consortium contract number 031121, TTC, and the New York State OGS contract number PC 69682. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion? So moved. Motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Conley Wilson. I did call Greg, our superintendent, on this one, and he had mentioned that this would be a second, that we authorized the first, but he still doesn't have the first. He's waiting for something. And I said I would ask. Are you familiar?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
The council earlier this year authorized the purchase of a Ventrac mower for parks and a Ventrac mower for the golf course.
Yes.
Superintendent has requested 2 Ventrac mowers this year. We have funded 1 at this time, so that's what I'm gonna guess that's what
That's what.
Tudor is referring to.
And he hasn't received it.
No, he has not received any. He's received Ventracs that were previously authorized. He has not received any Ventracs yet this year
Okay.
because this Sourcewell contract needed to be approved.
Oh,
That's what that, so I think it's a combination of multiple things.
okay. And when we just texted each other and I said, you know what, I'm going to ask him. Okay, so he's away this week, but maybe connect with him next week, okay? This will be on the special if we approve it. Further questions, discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution 67 carries 6-0. Resolution 68, resolution Troy State Council supporting the city of Port of Belize local government efficiency proposal to set, God bless you, the feasibility of intermunicipal code enforcement agreement. Councilmember Steele, is there a motion? Motion, Councilmember Conley Wilson, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Steele. I will turn it over to Councilmember Steele to kind of give a briefing on this, and Lindsay is here also for additional questions.
Well, I previously sent out a memo to you via email, and I think that pretty much captures, all this is doing is supporting a study. It will be with the number of sister municipalities to study shared services for code enforcement. That's the high level. Lindsay, I don't know if anyone has any questions further, feel free.
Come up and take that again. Lindsay, I think, for the council, what do you see being studied? Is it more cooperation, collaboration, or do you see the study actually looking deep into code enforcement? And then number 2, who else has resolutions to be,
Yes, so, Water Elite has passed the resolution, these codes will be providing an MOU, which is also allowed, it's not as great as having a resolution. City of Albany is also supportive. The only municipality that's been in discussions previously that hasn't hopped on board, to the grant application is Village of Greenwich. So it is just, again, a study really looking at how collaboration can increase efficiency. These municipalities deal with a lot of the same issues, potentially some of the same landlords. So being able to first and foremost, continue that information sharing and that collaboration. Having this study and whatever recommendations it have, if there are some things that require funding, whether it is purchasing software that can be used by each municipality, or other services, there is implementation funding within this grant opportunity. So our next step after the study, again, if there are recommendations that require funding, that funding is available through the same program. So this would be a first step.
Very good. I'd like to open it up for questions, any concerns, et cetera. Okay, Councilmember Gully.
Lindsay, do you have any idea of what they're trying to, what their figured goal is? Is this gonna be like a just communication or any type of collaboration task force that would work together, like for, list of landlords that aren't really doing their job, or, list of tenants that are making havoc wherever they go? Is this gonna be something deeper than what we have now, which is a simple phone call to municipalities and talk to their code departments?
That's the intent and hope, is that there will be something deeper, just beyond the, being able to pick up the phone. So there has been a task force between these same municipalities. They've been having bi-monthly meetings for, I think, a little over a year now. Jill Ossovita, the general manager of Water Police, been leading those. So some of the discussions that they've been having is potentially looking at updating city codes so that there is more consistency across the municipalities. Landlords better know what to expect. It's easier for code enforcement officers to get that help and assistance, that support from other municipalities. Again, looking at joint software. So this is really just an initial conversation. We anticipate the study, the scope of work will be individual conversations with each of the municipalities, with different departments, different stakeholders, unions, code enforcement officers, city officials, et cetera, to really get into what is going to be the most helpful moving forward, to be able to get more money on the system.
I hear you. Are some of those individuals represented on that committee, the different code departments, or is this an outside group doing this, or is this leaders from the code community coming together and say, we need to do more?
The meetings that have been occurring have been members from the different code enforcement departments in each of the municipalities. So Dave Giron has been participating in those meetings for the city of Troy.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to also encourage the DS chair to get an update, because until this came about, and I talked to Lindsay, and I was told, yeah, the city of Troy, and actually I called the mayor of Waterville, and he was the one who said, oh yeah, Troy is involved in these meetings, and I'm like, what meetings? What are you talking about? I don't know how long they've been going on, but we do have budget meetings and things like that. It was never ever mentioned that these meetings were happening. So
It's been really informal, and you weren't alone. Not everyone in the hose knew that
yeah,
their code enforcement was involved. And again, it was really informal. But that's part of I think the impetus of the study is to formalize that collaboration and bring it to light, and put more emphasis behind it. So again, I think just the information sharing alone, can help each of these municipalities do better job.
and we're applying for the grant. So, I've seen these grants. What's our responsibility? Is it How much from each unit?
So, so the funding allowed for the planning grant is, capped by the number of municipalities. So it's, 12,500, is available for each municipality. So, each municipality's match would be 6,250.
50/50.
Yep.
Okay. And when the local government efficiency aren't under CFA, they're separate, right? DOS,
No, they are
They
under
are now.
CFA, 4 o'clock on Friday.
so they are, oh, yeah. Okay, I thought maybe.
No, they're, yeah,
line,
they're under.
So they're
CFA.
totally, they pump those underneath. Okay. Further questions, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay, thank you. We have one recusal and 5 ayes, so resolution 68 carries 5-1. 5-0. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you so much. It will be on the special meeting tonight. Resolution 69, which we are doing the secret first, resolution determinant, and 69 and 70 go together. Resolution determining that proposed action is a type 2 action for purposes of New York State Environmental Public Review Act. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion? Motion, Councilmember Gully, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Steeling, Councilmember Hutchinson. Chris is with us. We could talk about 69, 70 together because 70 is the actual bonding. So let's talk about this. Give us an overview. 15.6, it's a lot of money. But what are we authorizing here? And do we plan to apply for some grants? And
The whole reason behind this. The whole reason behind this is so that we can apply for grants. We need the bond resolution in order to apply for funding and grants. If we don't get that funding or grants, we're not gonna fund the project, but if we want to apply, we have to bond for it. The project itself, with the lead and copper rule, with the lead exceedances, with all the issues with lead. Yes, we are doing the lead service line replacement. We are in process with that. That hits wherever we change out a lead service line. This is more of a water quality based bond, where we're actually going to change the chemistry of the water based on studies that we have done. And by changing the chemistry of the water, it makes it much less corrosive to the lead service lines. And we fully anticipate that we will be in compliance with the exceedances or with the lead and copper rule moving forward once these are implemented. A plan was submitted to EPA and DOH about 4 months ago. We have not gotten approval on it yet. We are constantly on them every other week of have they even looked at it. We're just waiting to see if they have more information. So what we're doing is right now we change the chemistry of our water by adding lime. We increase the pH of it, which makes the water less corrosive. What we're finding is that works in a lot of cases. We've been doing it since the plant was built in the 60s, but there's been a lot of changes in chemicals since then. What we want to do is add soda ash, which will increase the pH a little bit, and also use orthophosphate, which what that does, it sequesters the lead so it doesn't come out of solution. By doing that, it will reduce the lead coming from all the lead service lines. In order to implement those two processes, I need another small structure at the water plant itself. I can't use the Masonic Temple, it's too far away. I need a small structure at the water plant itself to store the chemicals, and I have to revamp some concrete and some piping inside the water plant in order to treat it appropriately. So in order to do that, there's a lot of concrete restructuring inside the water plant. And again, that was built in the 60s, so some of that is falling and falling apart. So as part of this, we have to redo portions of the water plant. So a lot of it is, it's all based on the water chemistry and getting better water quality to the resident, and not only Troy, but also all the communities. But yeah, we will directly see a better result from lead because of the water quality, which will affect all residents that have Not just lead surfaces, but lead in our faucets, lead in our internal pipes, everywhere that lead is existing or galvanized.
You know, Chris, we, take great pride, in our water, and obviously it's so important that we provide safe, clean water to everyone. But stating that, we have stated, and this is more for the public, that our water is good water and the lead was more in the piping. So can you just elaborate on that? I don't want people, reading this, I get very concerned. So if we could take a step back and talk about that.
Our water is fantastic. Okay, the water is great. The problem with all water is it dissolves everything. That's the way water works. It'll chew a rock up, give it enough time. It chews everything if you give it enough time. And that's where water's a love-hate relationship. It will dissolve everything at some point in time. What we are doing with this $15.6 million bond and the funding we're hoping to get is change the chemistry of the water so it's less corrosive.
Yep.
That's what we're doing with this. Our water quality is fine. It's the lead that's the issue. We're trying to change the chemistry of the water so that the lead is not an issue.
That clarifies. How much have we applied for? I see we've already applied. How much have we applied for this?
So we are going to apply for this.
Oh, we have
15.6.
it.
We haven't yet. I need the bond in order to do it.
Is it under the WQIP or the other? The WQIP is Water Quality Improvement Program. So that will be applying. When's the deadline for that? Is that also Friday?
Due to all the flooding issues, they pushed it off to August 11th.
Okay. It is on our special tonight.
I appreciate that.
And one of the requirements is that we have the money, should we not get the grant, to show that we have the money there, but it's, if we need that there for the grant application.
This shows that you support the project. So if awarded, we will move forward.
Correct. And we'll reevaluate if not awarded,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
I mean, it's essential and priority. So, further questions, comments?
Council President.
Councilmember Min.
So in addition to building, if we're able to get the grant and or however we'll end up spending the money, chemical storage building, and then also making improvements to the existing 1960 structure, electric, plumbing, concrete. Anything else you need?
Don't ask me that one. But yeah, the electric, it won't touch the electrical, it'll touch the concrete, where the internal plumbing is, so we can feed the chemicals in the right spot, and then we can dose it appropriately. Is really what it's gonna go for. There's gonna be a lot of excavation, a lot of rerunning internal plumbing, to make sure that we can treat the water in a way that we can control
And just ensuring that our water plant will, I mean, it's a building that's already 7 years old. So,
it. And it's concrete that's been underwater since it was designed back, since it was built back in the '60s.
yeah, and water and concrete are not friends.
Correct.
It was premier at that time, but, we need to make investments. Further questions?
Sure.
Yeah, Councilmember Conley Wilson and Councilmember Dodd.
Chris, for the way in which you're talking about, treating the water, have other municipalities like done that? And do they have like infrastructure similar to ours? Just curious about that.
Yes, many communities have switched to the soda ash and the orthophosphate or some sort of phosphate. There's orthophosphate, zinc phosphate, and a couple other ones. Many communities have done that because it does reduce the lead. And a lot of it's based on your raw water quality. And that's where we've done the study, and our raw water quality fits the needs, and we can make it work. We've done the studies on it. We've done sampling. It does reduce the corrosivity of water, and it will work.
If you could share those like studies, that'd be great.
Okay. those studies split atoms. So.
Luckily, I have some engineering.
I was just gonna say, Councilmember Conley Wilson, you can lead that charge for us. Perfect, thank you. Councilmember Gully.
Gonna pass. I don't want to say what I'm gonna say. Pass.
Now you have me intrigued. Yeah.
Later outside. Just like I want to tell them, I'm not gonna do it out here.
Okay, that concerns me a bit. Okay, further questions, comments? Okay, you know, Chris, anything we can do, obviously, in the meantime, to try to get this funded.
I appreciate it.
important.
Thank you.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resolution, thank you. 70, resolution 70 carries. Or I apologize, 69. We kind of did 69 and 70 together. Resolution 69 carries 6-0. Resolution 70, which goes hand in hand with resolution 69, bond resolutions to the Attorney New York, authorizing the issuance of $15.6 million serial bonds to finance the cost of the reconstruction of the city water treatment plant. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion? So moved. Motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Men, discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, Chris, before you leave, real quick, somebody asked me, they are watching, in Farmers Market, they'd like some of the flyers.
Yes.
I believe the person reached out to you, I can reconnect you. They're going to have use the flyers for a table at the farmers.
Yep, I got a couple emails on it and we'll get that.
Follow up.
Just got a little busy here.
No, I get it. Thank you so much. Just a reminder. Thank you. Perfect. Let's move along. Resolution 71, resolution accepting the 2022 financial statement audit, single audit of federal expenditures and single audit of New York State DOT expenditures as prepared by the Bond Deal Group, Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion? So moved. Motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully, discussion. I just want to thank Andy, your team, the whole crew working with Bond Deal. I know audits are labor intensive and very time consuming, so thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution 71 carries 6-0. And is the AC off? I turned it down. It's like 76 in here when I remember.
We'll be out here.
Come on, Chris. Chris, help me out here. Is it hot?
It's warm in here.
And it's not coming out. It keeps going up. I don't want that fan. That just. Here we go. Here we go. This is wonderful. Where's my grade? My fruit? Okay. Resolution 72. Thank you. Resolution determining that proposed action, now it's working. It's magic. Resolution determining that proposed action is the type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Thank you for hanging out, Chris. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion? Motion, Councilmember Soriento, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Steele. We can hit 2 birds because 73 goes with this on the discussion. So Chris, the 1.5 for water plant road improvements, have you broken that out for me or?
I have not broken that out for you. We did an estimate on everything. Can't remember where all the estimates fell. But it's the widening of the entryway off of Route 40, it's gating, it's all the security parameters, connecting everything back to the control room. It's paving to have proper width of the road, moving curving around, blocking off the front walls of the water plant. and moving the parking in front of the water plant. And then extending that, widening of the road all the way through to Brickyard Road. Where there'll be another gate with more cameras and access parameters back there, and trying to link all of that back to the spectrum control room and the water plant control room. We'll be working together one on one with that.
That was a question, my number one, cameras, not just at the entrances, but also the facility and around the grounds.
Yes, yeah, we already have, we already have cameras at the water plant at the entryways, even in the back of the plant, but yeah, we would extend that out to around our finished water tank, which is all the way over on 142 Northern Drive area, and our pipe yard, so we can see what's anybody coming in the backyard, back door of the pipe yard. So yeah, that's all part of the security upgrade.
Okay, and, Spectrum, are they putting any skin in the game? You had said work with them. Do you see them putting any financial skin in the game at all?
They said they were open to it once we had the plan. The plan relies on getting the Sonic Temple. But then after that, we're looking with them on what they can provide, either as funding or in terms of their security portion, if they can apply some sort of their, expertise on the security side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a question of mine. So do you see, bringing in, I would say, probably an engineer, to design, the roadway, et cetera, or any homeland security, consultant in terms of,
The roadways.
Oh, I don't have
No,
that.
this is a draft plan that we have of how the roadway would be designed. It's not finalized, but
Okay.
it's how we're gonna widen the front of it, put in the gates, kind of widen the road. It's not detailed spec of exactly where the gates are gonna go. We still have some changes that we can make to this, but it's more of, is it feasible? Can we make it work? And the idea is we can make it work.
Okay, can you forward that?
Yes.
Just specifics. So what I do like, Chris, you've done a lot of homework before coming in here. How long have you been thinking about this, working on it? Couple of years?
Yeah, a couple of years. A couple of years, pretty much, when Spectrum lost their public side of it. And then that's when I met them with the Sonic Temple, and they kind of weren't on board at first. It was more just a thought, but now they've been thinking about it with their membership, and they are on board with it. So that was the key. Without that, the whole thing falls apart.
A real off the cuff, today I was going to Brickyard, I saw 3 deer at the fence. Do they have an ingress egress? Cause it's all fenced in over by the, small reservoir on Northern Drive. Is there a place for them to get out of there?
That's our petting.
I figured that. You gotta know, something came across me like, wait a minute, we have a little sanctuary here, but.
No, they do have a way out. Right now, they do. They can get out right by the Sonic Temple. They come right off the road there and go right across the road. They have a path that they follow. We mow it for them.
Okay, but if we were to make this non-public, do you see a fence? Going, I would see a fence. It all be fenced in, correct?
Yes, yeah, we would make sure they're off the compound before. Lock it up.
Baker, you get to see a little buck too, beautiful, really. Stop that, deer are beautiful, never compare a deer to a roach.
How many deer do you have in your yard?
There's a lot.
Okay.
But I don't have them fenced in, they're welcome to come in and out. So, anyway, I just off the cuff, I saw 3 at the fence, and they look like. Okay. Chris, anything we're missing?
I'm aware of. Like with this plan, with that funding, I think we can secure our facility, to prevent any future issues at the water plant.
And I asked Chris, Homeland Security grants, nothing like that to date. I could have sworn there were some.
We've tried, we've passed, and they're meant more for fire and police. Even the couple grants that we've gotten for security have come from the police department, not to the water.
And you would think water plants, I mean, that has been talked about as targets for, terrorism.
Yeah, that's why all of our reports from all the entities have mentioned security of the water.
Yeah, I'm shocked, even federal. Okay, I know we have to move along, further discussion. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that was the seeker. Thank you very much, President. If you could send that would be helpful. Thank you. Resolution 72 carries 6-0. Resolution 73, resolution of the city attorney bond resolution authorizing the issuance of $1.5 million serial bonds to finance the purchase of a building on Water Plant Road and improvements. I want to make it clear, it's not just the building, but the full complex improvements. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion? Motion, we'll give it to Councilmember Ben. Is there a second? Second, Councilmember Steele. Chris, I did see real quick, this is passing and it did pass 6-0, but real quick, timeline, you said you would like to get shovels in the ground in the spring of 2024.
Once we are able to secure the purchase of the building and own the building, I would look at moving forward with everything else very quickly.
Okay.
We're not looking at anything drastic here. It's curbing and blacktop and fencing and cameras and wire conduit. It's all superficial materials that need to occur. I would look at getting it done very quickly.
Expensive, superficial,
Yes.
everything.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, thank you. Councilmember Gully.
Chris. Homeland Security has a CFDA grant, Homeland grant, 97.067. And it seems to be based on protecting and, it's a deliberate capability necessary to prevent, prepare, protect against, mitigate, respond to acts of terrorism. Is that something, because what we're doing is we're really preparing, we're creating a safe security barrier? Was that something that we could maybe look into?
When I ask them about grants like that, they say that's more for securing your police facilities and fire facilities and not so much for water plants.
Put a couple police cars up on the facility and we can protect, whatever. I mean, I'm just saying, it seems to me like this is what this is set up for. I'm just saying it's.
Yeah.
I get $1 billion sitting there, maybe we can do something with that.
Well, definitely keep looking, any grants that we could get to, go toward this effort, and I'm just shocked that Homeland Security, yeah. Cool, okay. It did pass, thank you, bond resolution 73-6-0, thank you, Chris, keep us posted. Resolution 74, resolution authorizing, expanding the scope of services under the contract with Benetech Inc. for administration of the city's health insurance program and the intentional expenditure therefore. Council President Mantello at the request of the administration. Is there a motion? So move. Motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Gully, discussion? Yes, Councilmember
Just want to
Soriano.
make sure, in the future, there's not gonna be a demotion either, right?
No way.
Based on, okay,
Absolutely not.
all right.
I mean, we posted that, so the person who took the position resigned, they posted it like 3 weeks ago, with one out. Yeah, I know.
All right.
There was, as I said, the bill, we.
So it's not gonna be a demo in the future or anything like that, okay, all right, well.
Councilmember Soriano, just full disclosure and anyone from the public, real quick, if you could explain what you were asking.
So right now, it's the senior data entry machine operator position and contracting out some of the duties of that position, which you did get union approval for. Thank you. Just want to make sure that that doesn't justify the needs of that position anymore to
bring it to a lower level title of data entry machine operator.
I think the only thing we would look at is, and I think it's a grade 8. I think it is, right? Like if it's whatever grade it is.
Yeah.
If we can get it to a more common title. Like from demo to account clerk, like if senior account clerk is grade 8, I'm saying hypothetically.
Okay.
Hypothetically, to switch it from a grade 8, whatever it is, to I think it's grade 8.
To
Another grade 8 title that's more common,
Okay.
that has
that
a
makes
bigger
sense.
test list, that's one of the problems with that title. is
Well,
It's
demo-
so archaic.
Yeah, it is. And demo, I mean, data entry, everybody's doing data entry. So,
We're not gonna demote it, certainly never gonna
Okay.
abolish it,
all right.
so.
I mean, I get it. I 100% understand if it ends up being like a senior account clerk or even principal account clerk, but I know that's a higher level. But I just want to make sure that this position's not gonna be,
No way, that is a
Going-
main, and it's a main artery.
yeah.
Even outside of Pickens.
Okay.
It's a main artery of the comptroller's office for billing.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilmember Soriento. Each council member brings some really unique and special skills as background, so it's great. Further discussion, all in favor? Except for Councilmember. Okay. Opposed? Resolution 74 carries 6-0. He is a really power. Resolution 75, resolution approving and endorsing the application of the city of Troy, New York to the New York State Office of Community Renewal for grant funding under the 2023 New York Main Street Technical Assistance Grant Program. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion? So motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Gully, discussion. This one, why is my computer frozen?
I do.
Oh, yes, this is, I believe, can you scroll down the Lansingburg?
Yes.
Second hand.
Second hand.
Oh, I did have a question on this, I apologize, Dylan.
Yep.
We're on the Second Avenue, Main Street.
Sure.
Okay, do you mind grabbing the mic? Thank you. I had thought that we already studied that area. What would be different under this study?
You guys hear me? Oh, no. All right, is that better?
Yeah, much.
So the Main Street grant is a little bit different. We did the, what do you call it? The historic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a little bit different. Well, actually, it's very different. The Main Street grant basically focuses on one specific block, a few specific blocks. It's supposed to be the cornerstone of your downtown area. And what you do with that is essentially, the bit that we're going for right now is actually for a study. Because you need to have individual parcels that are going to sort of opt in to be part of that effort. And you have to demonstrate what the kind of work that they need. You're going to be getting people in there to basically take a look throughout all of it. So while the historic, what do you call it?
Tax credit.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the grant. Yeah.
So,
For the historic tax credits, you basically have to create a district, and what that means is that you have to take a look at all the different housing stock and all the different parcels that are along the way. And if they're historic in nature with few gaps, then you could potentially qualify. So we already did that survey, that's what you're referring to, and put in for that district itself. But within that district, I think, it should be within the district, is this specific block that seems to be the best, I guess, nexus between two places where you could say north, south, east, west, you have like a real core for downtown. And so the hope there is that we get the technical assistance grant, which will then provide money to get a consultant in to help us basically go through the properties along that block, see what needs to get done there, work on different ideas, and then potentially put in for another grant for the implementation of that next year.
perfect. That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure. I appreciate that. Does anyone else have further questions? Perfect. Thank you, Dylan.
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Resolution 75 carries 6-0. Resolution 76, resolution of the Troy State Council approving and endorsing an application to the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, NYSERDA, for funding under the Carbon Neutral Community Economic Development Grant. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Conley Wilson. This one's really cool, $2 million ask. Take it away.
Before I get into that grant, I just want to mention that Danae Ziegler is doing a ton of work on the Lansingburg grant. So if you see her, please give her another growth. She's doing a ton of work up there, and it's all on her shoulders.
We'll do that. Thank you, Dylan, for letting us know that.
Yeah, no problem. So this other grant, this is a behemoth. It's going to be good, though. It's not going to happen until next year, but the grant itself is a great program. And because of all the work that we're doing right now with the district geothermal, the best way that I try to describe this is you would never try to just go somewhere without having a map to look at. And but ultimately, what NYSERDA is trying to do with some of these grant programs is create pilot projects that they work, but at the same time, the worst thing we could possibly do is get one of these district geothermal fields built, put up a sign that says mission accomplished, and nothing goes on from there. And my fear is that that might happen in the future, just because for them, their goal is to get the money out the door and spend it well and so that it gets done. But that's not going to be enough to carry their progress to where they're trying to go, which is that entire communities get decarbonized. I think there's something like, it would take something like $15 billion a year for New York State to decarbonize entirely. And that's over a long period of time. Their budget is currently $1.6 billion a year. So with that in mind, the hope here, we're going to be working with a couple of different groups, BEIC, which is the Vermont Energy, I want to say it's Innovation Corp instead of investment, but it's the Innovation Corp. Innovation, thank you.
Savior.
Yep. So Innovation Corp, they're the group that's working on Framingham, Massachusetts. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before. It's probably you're nodding your heads yet. They're very, very cool. They are working also with RPI on a plan to decarbonize RPI as well. So it would be with them. It would also be with our existing partners at RPI and our partners over at Siemens potentially, and also with CHA. What we would be doing is working on what's called the digital twin. And to put it simply, that's basically like your most in-depth representation you could possibly imagine of like everything from buildings and different way that energy systems work down to transportation systems and everything. And we'll start with energy and we'll start with the buildings as a base model. And that's what we're going to focus on. And the idea here is to basically put in information from all the different sort of departments in the city, from all these different places as well into one spot. So that if you were to basically say run a model on what would happen if you, let's just say part of the grid went down, you would get an instantaneous model that demonstrates exactly what would happen and all the things that follow after that. Or as it relates to climate change, you would say, what happens if there's a storm, like, let's just say, it rains for 5 days straight or something like that. What happens if there's potential flooding? You get exactly right. So you get exactly where it floods, you get exactly what happens. And then it also can potentially, with AI learning, spit out different potential outcomes or solutions you can potentially do that would actually stop it down to like a certain percentage. And this is where a lot of different places are going. Well into New Zealand for some reason. I don't know why, but they seem to be the leader across the world pretty much for this. But it's what they tried to do in Toronto with Google, a couple of places like that. But for our purposes, it's going to demonstrate what are the best areas to do district geothermal, what are the best areas to do something else like solar, community solar, etc. It'll spit out all that information to us and allow us then to take a look on a really large timeline. If we're trying to decarbonize by this point, and we're also trying to create all these new businesses all the way around here, because it's really economic development. What are the projects we should be taking in order and laying out a huge map that then we can basically follow so that we're not just making it up as we go along. And that's usually the gist of it. It's going to sound a lot crazier if I get more in detail to it.
No,
So
it's
leave it
good.
there.
No. And I would encourage council members to sit with Dylan because this is definitely something I think worthwhile. It's the future. We know that climate change is here. It's not on its way. It's here. Saying that, Dylan, I did notice part of the 2 mil. I love the whole analyzing the roadmap, etc. It would also hire an actual staff person detailed to this project.
Yes.
Do you see it a staff person or do you see a contractor?
I see a staff person. I would like to hire eventually a staff person to help with some of these specific energy related projects. but also some of the sustainable projects. I mean, honestly, we could use probably 2 or 3 project managers, but this would be a specific type of project manager.
Okay, thank you. And right now, the geothermal, we have it, 1 Monument Square area. We have it standard and Rosenblum's looking at it.
So they're looking at standalone systems, so they would own the system, they would own everything. We're currently looking at 4 different areas, 2 of which are pretty much, they've already got grants behind them. So the one around Riverfront Park, which ties into the LWRP grant.
Right.
There's that one, which is our
That's
first.
ours, correct?
So the city's providing the land to the LBC for a payment, essentially on a 30-year basis for the rights to do the district geothermal there. And then it'll go to a spot where National Grid's gonna pick it up, and then they're gonna create the distribution that they do currently.
Mhm.
That's gonna be our model going forward, hopefully. And we can replicate that in a couple of different places. The next one will be around Russell Stage College, and potentially we just got a grant to design that. It's through the LBC. So we're gonna be working with our team hopefully in the next couple of weeks to basically flesh out those contracts. And that will allow us to do the design along with potentially helping Russell Stage get an energy upgrade essentially that could then be paid and these things. So we'll get into all the details as time goes, because we're obviously gonna have to. A lot of details, but
You did a PowerPoint for us on geothermal way back when. Do you mind rewording that? That was really just educational, informational. It was wonderful.
sure,
If
thank
you
you.
don't mind
I'll
digging
try
that
to
up.
find which one it was and send it over to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions, discussion? This is exciting. So keep us posted. CFA's due on Friday. And did you write all the CFAs minus the bird one?
So it's been a bit of a team effort with BEIC on this one. And then Margaret over at River Street Planning helped us with the LWR.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Let's get this one. Resolution 76 carries 6-0. Let's get all of them. It's really exciting and the bird. Resolution 77, resolution supporting New York State CFA for the 2 City of Troy LWRP local revitalization program grant application. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion? Motion, Councilmember Gully, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Soriento. We're looking at this one, the 2 CFAs, one's 1 Monument Square. And the other, it looks like, 3 mil toward the Riverfront Park. So the 1 Monument Square, is this for, solely 1 Monument or all of the waterfront from Riverfront Park to 1 Monument?
So it's not specifically about 1 Monument Square, but none of them are specifically about 1 Monument Square.
Okay,
If you were to take, I think I could put up, the picture on the second page.
there it is.
Illustration.
That's what I was looking for.
So if you were to look at the majority of that, everything that's sort of illustrated there, that entire area pretty much makes up the LWRP focus area, I would say.
Mhm.
Keep in mind, it's for the waterfront revitalization plan, so it's a much bigger, broader plan than that. We started it a number of years ago. It never got finished on the comprehensive plan.
Right,
So you have the comprehensive plan up top that kind of sees over everything, and then below that, you've got certain plans like the LWRP plan, the BOA, which we're finishing up now. And those are more specific plans. And then below those, we've got neighborhood specific plans, and then it goes down and down to projects. So this is the next step down for the comprehensive plan. The $100,000 is to help us finish it finally. It's a pretty needed contractor for that. We're also going to put in for $3 million to then implement some of that plan in the Riverfront Park, planning on trying to get into drilling next year for the geothermal system. And we have a bunch of money already to kind of help with that. But to finish the actual Riverfront Park, we'd like to try to get the money lined up now, or at least put in the application now so that next year they know it's coming.
okay. I did notice, you're very optimistic and I like it. I mean, I wish it was sooner. But do you feel the 12 to 18 months for the groundbreaking for 1 monument? Do you see that more with the geothermal or the actual project?
So you have to separate them a bit. So the geothermal is gonna happen in that time period because we gotta get moved on that. There's any number of potential outcomes for One Monument Square, all of which I feel pretty positive about. The question is just gonna end up being the final, what actually gets built. But we're in line to be able to do something soon. So, I'm still the optimist.
I'm optimistic, about all of our grants, but this one also because the state does have a lot of skin in our waterfront and One Monument with the 19 mil, the DRI. I mean, if this all pieces together, this will be huge. And that's the whole idea, to get this, to domino these grants into making, taking that next step along the waterfront. So
That's the hope.
that's the hope. Further discussion, questions? Okay, thank you, Dylan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, resolution 7760, resolution 78, resolution authorizing. Oh, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, that was.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you, Dylan. So, yeah. Okay, so I will take a motion to adjourn from 79.
That goes into the.
We're doing the special, we need a benefit for them, special. Oh, without, yeah, which we hear. So, I'll take a motion to adjourn, motion, Councilmember Gully, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Soriento, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, all right, 6-0 to adjourn finance, we'll give Maria 3 seconds and then go right into special, your votes.
Yes, I'm opposed. Can I send Chris and Dylan home?
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
thank you.
You're
Thank
safe.
you. Chris, I'll hit you up tomorrow. Okay.
Keep an idea, waterworks bar, and a couple pool tables.
Okay, we are, now,
How about Andy? Can Andy go home?
we're gonna gavel into the special meeting. I'll ask everyone to please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Councilmember Conley Wilson.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Conley Wilson. I'll ask Maria to do a roll.
Councilmember Gully,
Here.
Councilmember Pickros is absent, Councilmember Steele,
Present.
Councilmember Mims, present, Councilmember Conley Wilson,
Present.
Councilmember Soriento. Here. Council President Manzella,
I am still here.
6 are present, 1 absent.
Okay, I'm going to ask the council, resolution 79 was placed on your desk and also was emailed by our corporation counsel, Rick Morrissey. I would ask unanimous consent for the public. I'm just going to read the title and the one paragraph, resolution authorizing issuance of subpoenas to testify before the Tri-State Council in the matter of an investigation of the unsafe conditions of the structures at the Harbor Point Gardens apartment complex that necessitated an emergency evacuation of more than 50 apartments in the response of landlord 22 Delaware LLC to the emergency. I am going to just read the now therefore be it resolved. The prior paragraphs give the history. That the city council of the city of Troy acting as a committee of the whole and by a 2/3 majority vote in accordance with section C16 of the Troy City Charter does hereby authorize the city council president to issue subpoenas to the following individuals to appear and testify at a further public hearing to be noticed by the clerk. And upon the subpoenas, Jay Craven, Sam Schwartz, Rob Howard, Victor Mandel, Mike Evangelista, Lisa Jerkis, they are all affiliated in some fashion with Harbor Point, with Lexington, with 182, and then last day Sharon from the code department. So I will make a motion to add resolution 79. Is there a second? Second, Councilmember Soriento. And this would be a motion to add resolution 79 by unanimous consent. We have a motion, we have a second discussion.
It's 78 or 79.
79 because 78 was
Okay.
Correct. So even though that was full, Rick did number this 79. So we have a motion, we have a second, it's a good question, all in favor of adding it to the agenda?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resolution 79 is added to the special meeting agenda. Public forum, would anyone in the public like to bring any issue before the council? Well, I would like to bring an issue, and if you don't mind, it would be very quick. I would like to say happy birthday to Andy,
Thank you.
our comptroller, and we'll get you out of here so you can enjoy your family and cupcakes and all that good stuff, and maybe even a cocktail, maybe if you would like one.
Thank you.
If we could sing, happy birthday to Andy, happy birthday to Andy, happy birthday, dear Andy, happy birthday to you. Are you too? Okay, happy birthday, Andy.
Official,
All right.
official, now you're old.
Then one from the public would like to come up and address the council. Resolution 67.
Resolution 67, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Grassland Equipment and Irrigation Corporation for the purchase of new self-propelled mowers under the Sourcewell Consortium. Contract number 031121 TTC and the New York State OGS contract number PC 69682. Council President Mansell at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion? So move motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Conley Wilson, discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 noes, resolution 67 passes.
Resolution 68.
Resolution 68, resolution of the Troy City Council supporting the city of Waterville local government efficiency proposal to assess the feasibility of an intermunicipal code enforcement agreement. Councilmember Steele.
Is there a motion? Motion, Councilmember Conley Wilson, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Steele, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recuse.
5 ayes, 1 abstain, and 1 absent. Resolution 68 passes.
Thank you. Resolution 69.
Resolution 69, resolution determining that proposed action is a type
2.
2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. Council President Mansell at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion? So move motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Conley Wilson, discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 noes, resolution 69 passes.
Resolution 70.
Resolution 70, bond resolution of the city of Troy, New York, authorizing the issuance of $15.6 million serial bonds to finance the cost of the reconstruction of the city water plant, city water treatment plant. Council President Mansell at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion? To move motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second. Second, Councilmember Gully, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 noes, resolution 70 passes.
Resolution 71.
Resolution 71, resolution accepting the 2022 financial statement audit, single audit of the federal expenditures and single audit of New York State Department of Transportation expenditures as prepared by the Bonneville Group. Council President Mansell at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion? So move motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Min. We'll do the tie then. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 noes, resolution 71 passes.
Resolution 75.
Resolution 75, resolution approving and endorsing the application of the city of Troy, New York to the New York State Office of Community Renewal for grant funding under the 2023 New York Main Street Technical Assistance Grant Program. Council President Mansell at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion? So move motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Min, discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 noes, resolution 75 passes.
Resolution 76.
Resolution 76, resolution of the Troy City Council approving and endorsing an application to the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority for funding under the Carbon Neutral Community Economic Development Grant. Council President Mansell at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Gully, discussion. It's a tie. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 no's, resolution 76 passes.
Resolution 77.
Resolution 77, resolution supporting a New York State consolidated funding application for two city of Troy local revitalization program grant applications. Council President Mentel, the request of administration.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilmember Steele, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Mann, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 no's, resolution 77 passes.
Resolution 79.
Resolution 79, resolution authorizing issuance of subpoenas to testify before the Troy City Council in the matter of an investigation of the unsafe conditions of the structures of the Harbor Point Garden Apartments complex that necessitated an emergency evacuation of more than 50 apartments and the response of the landlord 182 Delaware LLC to the emergency.
Is there a motion? Council President Mantel.
Council President Mantella.
Is there a motion? Motion, everybody.
Second.
Is there a second? Councilmember Gully. We'll give it Councilmember Steele, is that right? Everybody said it. Councilmember Steele, Councilmember Gully, seconded, discussion. The Corporation Council now will work on the subpoenas and we'll keep everyone posted. I believe the folks on the list will have a certain amount of days to respond. I see them fighting this and we'll keep everyone on top of next steps. And I really want to thank Rick for pulling this together. So we didn't have to wait a week and a half to even pass the reso. So thank you all. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
6 ayes, 0 no's, resolution 79 passes.
Okay, two quick things. Meeting tomorrow night in my park, 6 o'clock, Sacred Heart Cafeteria. And Councilmember Steele is going to have a public safety meeting.
Yes, on August 17th at 5 o'clock. Also wanted to mention that there'll be a District 3 meeting on August 2nd. And I was notified that there will be a night out in the Nick Park.
Yes, Troy night out. Yeah, Troy night out. Or, I'm sorry, first night. I apologize, yes.
August 1st. I'm trying to find
I can.
And it was suggested that perhaps the council would want to have a table there. August 1st from 5 to 8 at Nick Park. So
Yes.
anyone interested in, I'll work with Maria, we can get some information.
I think we definitely have a table. Yeah. I'll be there.
What's
Um,
It's 5 to 8 on August 1st at Nick. It's the National Night Out event.
Is there a national night out in South Troy, North Central? I know years prior to COVID, there would be 3. And I think last year South Troy had one in the Berg. I'm not sure about North Central, but we'll try to.
This was the only one I was.
Yep. Okay, it's coming quick. That's next week.
It's at the Park Pub at 6 o'clock.
And Sue does provide
What date
pizza.
is that? It's Slices with Sue, it's pizza. It's a Wednesday. August 2nd.
All right. Now I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Gully, is there a second? Second, Councilmember Conley Wilson, all in favor? Opposed? Happy birthday, Andy. All right.